Thank you very much. My name is Marta Dassou. I'm the Senior Director Europe of the Aspen Institute. I'm very honored to be here and to chair this special dialogue on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, starting with Saeb Erekat, who is the Palestinian chief negotiator for the Middle East peace process, the Secretary General of the PLO, and he is the face, if you wish, of a very long-standing effort to achieve peace in that region through a negotiation with Israel. We are in a paradoxical situation, Mr. Erekat, in my view, because from a certain point of view, the new priorities and this collapsing regional order we have been discussing yesterday and today is making, in a sense, your conflict a traditional one. And in a sense, paradoxically, I would say, it seems to be quite marginal as far as the new priorities of the external powers and regional powers are concerned. And yet, at the same time, as King Abdallah yesterday reminded us, there is no way of building up a new regional structure in the Middle East unless the grievances of the Palestinian people are not properly addressed. So this is a topical moment. As we all know, the peace process does not exist in this moment, in the sense that after the last attempt by Mr. Kerry in 2004, and then the war in Gaza, everything is frozen. And I would like to know from you, giving you the floor for 10, 15 minutes, 15. How do you think you could try to go on with the process you have devoted your entire life? Please, Saeb, you have the floor for 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mato. I'm honored. I thank the organizers for the kind invitation. And I acknowledge the presence of so many friends and personalities, Dr. Nabil Arabi, Miguel, Mark, everyone. What we're going through, Mato, in the Middle East today, in my opinion, is what Europe went through in 1848. If you recall, in March 15th, 1848, Chancellor Metternich had to flee his palace after 3 weeks of peaceful demonstrations in a cart and horses. What we're witnessing in the Arab world is our presidents and leaders fleeing in jets and choppers, being killed. And it took Europe 90 years for the dust to settle down. What we're going through in the Arab world is something that, unfortunately, we will go through for the next 30 to 50 years. And looking at the history of man, I haven't recalled any society that was able to kill ideas with bullets or swords or arrows. We are killed with bullets. Ideas, and especially bad ones, require better ideas to defeat them. And today, in the just fight, I think the main priority for us as a whole, Arabs and others, is to fight extremism, is to fight terrorism, Daesh, ISIS, and others. But two things are needed to defeat these phenomena. Since my Prophet Muhammad, God bless him, died, we had 803 movements in political Islam, of movements who went to mosques to use God rather than to worship God. Daesh, in our history, is number 803. And you're not going to defeat ISIS with bullets, alliances, warplanes, and so on. Two things are required. One is peace between Palestinians and Israelis, and there you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Christian and Muslim Palestinians will not convert to Judaism and become Israelis, and Jews will not convert to Christianity and Islam and become Palestinians. The option is a two-state solution on the 1967 line, for the state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital on the 1967 line to live side by side in peace and security with the state of Israel. Number two, what's needed is democracy in the Arab world, and anyone who says Arabs are not ready for democracy is a racist. We need good governance, the rule of law, women's rights, human rights, accountability, transparency, and that is what's needed, the combination of democracy and peace. Now, what do we have in our hands? As the state of Palestine under occupation, that's our status, we have recognized the state of Israel's right to exist on the 1967 lines. We have engaged in negotiations with the Israeli government for more than 23 years. And as a result today, what we saw between 1993 till today is that the number of Israeli settlers in the supposed to be land of the Palestinian state in the West Bank and East Jerusalem was raised from 200,000 to 600,000 settlers. This is the truth. So when given the choice, the Israeli government, instead of choosing peace and two states and recognition, they have chosen settlements, dictations, and incursions, and they still believe that by military solutions they can solve the problem. Einstein once was asked to define madness, and he said the simplest answer is to repeat the same things with the same ingredients and expect different results. And that's what the Israeli government is doing now. Day after day since 1967, they thought that by military incursions, by settlements, by dictations, by demolishing of homes, even now they're withholding the bodies of our dead sons and daughters, not releasing them to be buried for their families. And they believe that through these military solutions, they can have a problem. For Palestinians and Israelis, the only option is to live and let live. The only option is the state of Palestine on the 1967 lines to live side by side in peace and security with the state of Israel. We have recognized the state of Israel's right to exist and live in peace and security. I'm yet to see or hear any Israeli official, and I pray that the day will come when they stand tall and reach to their neighbors and say to Palestinians, you are our neighbors. We want to live and let live. We recognize you and we recognize your right to live in a state on the 1967 lines. But their answer today to us, and last week, I lost my 37-year-old nephew. A father of 4, Hanan, his oldest daughter, is 7. He was killed in a Hizma checkpoint, as the Israelis say he was shooting, and he was shot. Why would a young man, 37 with 4, commit such and go to his death like this? Do you think that we just like to be killed? It is because I failed. It is because I was foiled. It's because for 23 years, I promised Mazen, I promised every Palestinian that once we recognize the state of Israel, once we renounce violence, once we accept a two-state solution, once we engage in serious negotiations, we will get to our independence and freedom and dignity. So what we got in return? What did I bring my people in return in the last 23 years? From 200,000 settlers, the number now is 600,000 settlers. We have a prime minister in Israel who's priding himself by saying, a Palestinian state is not in my watch. So if a Palestinian state is not on your watch as a government of Israel, what is it on your watch? I know you're a country of 3,000 fighting planes. I know you're a country of 5,000 tanks, nuclear weapons. And if it's my word against any of you in the Congress and the Senate, I don't stand a chance. And who said life is about fairness and justice? If we go down as Palestinian moderates, if we cannot deliver, if we are foiled, if Netanyahu continues to tie our hands and legs and throw us in the sea, so he will tell you, oh, they're not swimming, they're not part, or they're drowning. He's drowning us, or they're drowning. They have done nothing but to weaken us. And the question today to you in the international community, if this Palestinian leadership goes down, mark my scenario. ISIS today is a causeless bunch of criminals and terrorists, and they should be defeated. And no one in the Arab world, in the Islamic world, is associating with them because killing French or Tunisians or Egyptians or Saudis is not attractive. If tomorrow they fill the gap of the likes of me and Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian moderates who have recognized the state of Israel, and they become engaging in killing Israelis, who in the 1 billion plus Muslims will be against? If we allow this to happen, Rome will be under curfew one day. So is Berlin, and like what happened in France. Stop it before it's too late. Extremism and political blindness have no religion. What's the difference between a thug and a murderer who puts a Western journalist to his knees and slit his throat in Syria or Iraq, or between a thug and a murderer who burns an 18-month Ali Dawabshi, a toddler of 18 months, alive? There's no difference. A culture of hate eats its people. And such diseases as bigotry and racism, once they inflict underneath our skins, as Arabs, as Muslims, as Jews, as Christians, as whites, we have a tendency to justify it. Sometimes we give the sociological, psychological, economic, social reasons, and now Israel is using the term security reasons to justify apartheid that we're living under in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Today there are roads in the West Bank I cannot use as a Palestinian. That is the damn truth in 2015. Never in the darkest hours of South Africa's apartheid were blacks prevented to use roads whites were using. So if we go down, if the two-state solution goes down, congratulations, Israeli government. You've succeeded. You foiled. You killed moderates like me, and like my president, and like my movement. Can you walk us through the day after? What do you see the day after? What do you see the day after? Why do you lack the courage and the realism to stand tall and say we recognize the state of Palestine right to exist on the 1967 lines? We are destined to be neighbors. And by the way, our conflict between us and Israel is a political one, is not a religious one. And ladies and gentlemen, Judaism to us as Palestinians and as Arabs, Judaism is one of God's great religion. Judaism is not a threat to us. It's like Christianity, like Islam. And our conflict should not be turned into a conflict between a so-called Islamic state and a so-called Jewish state. I warn you against this. So the Israeli government must stop its efforts to try to change this conflict into a religious one. Time is of the essence.
Yeah.
Time is of the essence. I know my time is coming up. I know at the end of the day, and I see my colleague Salvan Shalom sitting here. I met him in July, met him in August, and I told him, I see a sea of blood coming. Let's prevent it. The blood will be the grandchildren of yours and my grandchildren. That was in July. Let us stop it. This was my message. This is my message. My message is that Palestinians and Israelis are destined to live in peace and security. Such circumstances as the continuation of occupation, subjugation, it's not going to get us peace or security. What we need is to keep alive the hope in the minds of Palestinians and Israelis alike. The only option is a two-state solution. Some people say one-state solution. There is no such a thing as a one-state solution. A solution requires two parties. Israel will never be a party of a one-state solution where Jews, Muslims, and Christians can be equal. If the Israeli government refuses to accept two states in 1967 or one state, equal rights for all, the only thing they're entertaining now is the third option, is what I call one state, two systems, apartheid. And that will take us in the direction of an Islamic state versus a Jewish state. That will take us into darkness. Darkness, bloodshed, extremism, and the Middle East deserve much better. Today, it's a moment of truth. If you have friends that get drunk in your house, you don't send them driving alone. If Israel is your friend in the West, it's time for you to stand and stop them from the continuation of their occupation. I applaud Europe for their decision to label settlement products. Settlements are illegal under international law. And the settlements in the West Bank is the most advanced colonial entities at the expense of Palestinian livelihood and Palestinian economy. The threats are enormous in our region. And once again, we will never be able to defeat bad ideas with bullets. We need better ideas. And the idea is to defeat ISIS in the region. And all of us want to do this. It's going to be through democracy in the Arab world. And anyone who says Arabs are not ready for democracy is a racist. And secondly, it's peace between Palestinians and Israelis based on a two-state solution, the state of Palestine living side by side, the state of Israel on the 1967 lives in peace and security.
Thank you.
Failure by Israel to do this is going to mean pushing us in the direction of disaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thank you. We will leave to Minister Shalom the opportunity to present his own positions as it is right. If I may, for the EU, this was a decision about the rules of origin of these products. But can we go a bit deeper and try to understand how we can restart the process? That would be very important. This is a point on which the Italian diplomacy is willing to make a difference, if you wish. Do you think that we could think in terms of starting from some concrete steps, from some concrete gestures? Because in this moment, the process, as we all know, is not going on since 2004, since the last effort by John Kerry. So can we make a difference with some concrete preliminary gestures on the ground?
Well, I don't think we're trying to improve the situation on the ground.
Because the security environment is deteriorating.
What's needed is to change the situation on the ground. We are not citizens of the state of Israel. We're under Israeli occupation, okay? What's needed now is for the US policymakers and European policymakers to move from the squares of what's possible to the squares of what's needed. What do I mean by this? What's possible is we go to Israel, see the Prime Minister, see what he can do, what he cannot do, and then tailor everything around this. Today, what's needed is for the state of Israel to recognize the state of Palestine immediately. What's needed today is for the European Union countries who say they accept two states and they want two states. If you say you accept two states, why do you recognize only one state? Why don't you recognize the two states? If you want to keep hope in the minds of Palestinians about the possibility of a two-state solution. What's needed today is for the Israeli government to reach out and announce its recognition of the state of Palestine. So, if the Israeli government tells me, come on, be realistic, this is not possible. And then when I tell them, let's sit down and draw the maps of the 1967 last two states, oh, this is not realistic. How about if we mutually implement agreements signed, governments of Israel sign? Oh, this is not realistic. What's wrong? So you don't want to commit to agreement signed, you don't want to commit to two states in 67, you don't want to delineate the maps of 67. What are you going to do with me? I'm not your subject. I will not accept to be under your occupation. I'm 60, and those who are 60 plus in Palestine are only 4% of the population. Today, the message of our people to us is very clear. In the best case scenario, they tell us they fooled you, meaning the Israeli governments. They chose settlements and dictation and not peace and negotiations. So today, if we want to move ahead, I don't think we're going to be talking about freedom of movement or access or free permission here and there. We want our freedom. We cry freedom. We're defending ourselves. Israel is not defending itself. Israel is defending its occupation and its settlements.
We will talk about Israel later on. Listen, in my view, there is also a problem on your side, if you allow me.
Please.
If you allow me to be blunt
Only one problem on my side? Many problems.
No.
Go ahead.
If you allow me to be blunt enough. For instance, one traditional problem we have is the division between the West Bank and Gaza. How could you explain that? And is it possible, in your view, a changing of the situation or not?
Yes, I think this is a very, very important question. Yes, we have a major problem with the division of the West Bank and Gaza. Hamas is a Palestinian political party, all right? What we're doing today with Hamas is trying to achieve our Magna Carta, our own basic principle, that when we differ, we resort to ballots and not bullets. We resort to ballots and not bullets. And a Palestinian state means one authority, one gun, and the rule of law. This is for us. We're not doing anyone a favor. So what we're offering Hamas today is a national unity government, but at the same time to go back to ballots, to general elections. I hope Hamas will accept this, because this is on us. If we don't help ourselves as Palestinians, nobody else will. And I think the only thing that some Israelis are using now is this as a pretext for not recognizing the state. But what stopped you from recognizing the state before Hamas came to do the divisions in Gaza? So it is on us. And if we were to move in the direction of a Palestinian state, everyone must understand in Palestine it's going to be one authority, one gun, and the rule of law.
The last question for you, and then we move on, is the following one concerning the United States. That has been a traditional and very important actor. How do you judge the position of the Obama administration and the effort made by John Kerry also recently? Do you feel a problem with the United States? Do you feel that they are engaged enough on this front or not?
Well, I will answer personally speaking. I have never seen a more commitment to two-state solution on the 1967 lines from any people in the history of the United States more than President Obama and Secretary John Kerry. And they were foiled like me by Bibi Netanyahu. He used everything in the book to derail their efforts and to derail our efforts. And to be honest with you, he succeeded. And today the question that we put, it's not, I'm not going to try to make peace with the US. The US, like us, is following its interests. Like Italy, like Nigeria, all countries on earth follow their national interests. And so the United States today is a country with almost 100,000 soldiers stranded in this region. Its borders are no longer with Canada and Mexico and the two oceans. They are bordering us. That's the truth. Today, France borders is with us. Britain, Germany, your kids are coming to fight wars in our neighborhoods, right? You're our neighbors. So all you have to do, what's your balance? You want to defeat extremism without drying the swamp of this Israeli occupation? So it's time for the United States government to stop treating Israel as a country above the laws of man. Arabs have offered the most strategic initiative in the history of Arabs. It's called the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002, adopted in the Beirut Arab Summit, telling Israel, once you withdraw to the 67 lines, all Arabs will recognize you. What more can be done to Israel in order to make them move in the direction of two states on 1967? Because this is my only option. Unless somebody else has another option, the option either two states on the 1967 lines, or the option is the dark scenario of an Islamic state of Baghdadi versus the Jewish state of this Israeli government.
Thank you, Mr. Erekat. Unfortunately, time is of essence, and we have to move on. Thank you indeed.